Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I am in Mbale, Uganda, and today I will be doing a video discussion with a good friend of mine called Sue Tiong. And again, because I don't have a studio and I'm on the road all the time, I am in a restaurant using their Wi-Fi, so I don't know how stable it's going to be, and hoping that there won't be too much noise because there's actually a lot of people here. So just bear with me, and I hope you find this discussion interesting. Okay? This is the restaurant where I am conducting the discussion. Luckily, a few people left, but there's still the workers here who are also making noise. So this is what I ordered. I'll eat it later. So please just bear with me if there's some noise. Thank you. Today I have a special friend and guest. Her name is Sue Tiong. So I will let Sue introduce herself. Sue, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sue, and I'm a business coach and also an entrepreneur with a big heart. I help a lot of the impoverished community, those hardcore poor single mothers and youth who have a hunger to make a difference in their life. And I'm also a mentor. I mentor youth who have the motivation to become an entrepreneur, and just talk to me if you want. And I just feel very connected to Celeste because she's very radical and vocal in all the issues that people usually don't dare to talk about, and I'm just very excited to talk to all of
Okay, so there was a little bit of a
you.
kind of no, not a delay. Yeah, there is a delay, but there's also a little bit of a glitch going on. But
Oh dear.
we'll try our best. I think it could be the internet, the actual connection. Okay, so I asked Sue to come up with 3 questions uh, about any topic that she would like to talk to me about, and topics that are usually not discussed openly, because we all are like trying to be so politically correct, which is just totally incorrect in my opinion. And as you all know, I have a lot of opinions. So Sue, knowing Sue didn't come up with three. She came up with a lot of interesting topics. But from the interesting topics, I chose these 3. So we're gonna get into the first one. So Sue, the first one you recommended is sexuality and adultery, right? Okay, so
Yep.
first is because I'm not so sure about what you mean when you say what you mean by sexuality. So if you can please explain to me.
Well, it comes from the word sex, and for me, it's very simple. If you really want to make it really basic, sexuality is basically who you want to have sex with. As we grow up and we form our own preference, so sexuality is basically who you prefer to connect with, to fuck, to just have a relationship, a sexual relationship with. And so people will like label it as heterosexual or bisexual or homosexual or however sexual you call it. But is there really a label to us? And does it mean when you identify as a bisexual, you are also not a homosexual because you are already labeled like that? And is there like something like if you're a homosexual then you're not capable of being married and fathering children? Just look at all the celebrities, some celebrities who has had a marriage and then left and just decided that I'm a homosexual. I don't want to remain married to my wife anymore. So for me, it's very over sexualized as well in the media, and that there is a pressure for especially the human beings now. We don't talk about old or young, but everyone, there's a pressure on people to identify with one sexuality, and there is like a judgment on what is right and what is wrong. And if you put in the judgment, then religion may come in, the society acceptance may come in, the norm may come in, the culture may come in. So then there are also countries where they ban homosexuality, and there are also countries where it's a taboo to talk about your own sexuality, or even the fact that a woman, a feminine voice, are not supposed to talk about sex. And there's also a label or shaming on people who openly talk about sex and straight away say, oh, you're a pervert because you are talking about sex. But we are very sexual beings. Without sex, our civilization would be extinct by now, because that is how we procreate. So how can something that is so basic and so primal, and it's just the makeup of us, I mean, like, how can we just pretend that, oh, there's no sex, or we are not supposed to talk about sex, but you're supposed to have sex to continue to have babies so that our civilization will continue, you know, to thrive, to have more like the next generation. And I know there's another topic altogether, like talking about like there's too many of us on earth and then we should not have more babies. But that is our basic made up. We are made up of this primal instinct. We are animals after all, this body. So for me, it's just like a lot of people trying to control, not a lot of people, like the people in power or people who shape the policies, and the people in authority, they, or people with power in the media, they're trying to shape it in such a way that, okay, it's fine to talk about sex when it's the female being feminine and, you know, sexy and enticing the man, but it's not okay if you openly tell people that you prefer to, you know, be open about your sexuality, and or even show your breast when you're breastfeeding. I mean, like, that is like over sexualization with regards to the women receiving the shorter end of the stick, which I feel is very unfair. But of course, on the other end, there's another feminist movement where we are like, oh, we hate men, and then we are going to show our tits, and we're going to flash and then have a parade, you know, just show that we are free and all that. But there's also the other extreme, which may not be peaceful in achieving what we really want to achieve, which is peace and also freedom to express our sexuality as we like it, as we, it's our birthright. And just look at all the, you know, ancient Greek and Rome, the sculpture, and they, it's perfectly fine to put a naked nude bust in your living hall, but now it's like, oh no, you can't show that boob, you know. So I mean, like, have we regressed or have we progressed, you know, from being very open and appreciating art as it is, to now being like, you know, oh no, we can't see boobs, but then after that I want to see boob but we can't see it, so what's the point? So I mean, these are just some of the thoughts that is running through my mind right now when we talk about sexuality. And just because somebody is talking about sexuality doesn't mean that person is sex crazy or a pervert. So I mean, so it's like a very sensitive issue nowadays when it's supposed to be an open subject. And because of the stigma around it, kids nowadays don't usually talk to their parents about it. And there's like, you like that, and then they go and look at what the media is portraying, which is actually very, very biased and not healthy.
Okay.
And I feel that sexuality is a very beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Okay, yeah, you make a lot of good points there. For people who normally watch my channel, my YouTube channel, I think they are used to me talking about this all the time, because I talk about LGBTQAI++, which is now, we now call that alphabet community, because, you know, they've already taken all the letters. Yeah, anyway, I talk a lot about that. I talk about abortion. I talk about sex a lot. And you are right that actually, the less you talk about it, the more over-sexualized it actually becomes. It's like the opposite. You are right. And you're right about the regression, because I am African. My ancestors are Bushmen. We don't wear clothes. So It is like in my DNA not to care about how naked I am, because that is just, it's already, and we were all born naked. If being naked, or if your body was supposed to be a sinful thing, we would have all been born in a pair of jeans and a pair of Nikes and a fabulous leather jacket. But we were not. We were born naked. And it only became an issue when Adam and Eve ate the apple. So the way it was intended, if you want to look at it from a religious point of view, right, the way it was intended was that we were always supposed to be naked. You know, whether you believe in God or not, that is what it was. We were intended to be naked. And you're only supposed to wear clothes because you're cold or whatever, to cover the body. Okay, so those are good points. Okay, thanks. So now we want to get to the one where you adultery, because you brought this up. And just going back to the notes you gave me, you spoke about how religion comes into play with sexuality and when it comes to adultery. And then when men stray and cheat, it's nature. But when women cheat, it's totally wrong. And then you also talk about, you said adultery from a woman's point of view. So let's first cover the first one, where sexuality and adultery, how religion comes into play, and then also when men stray and cheat, we consider it nature, and but when women do it, it's wrong. So please elaborate on that. Oh my.
Well, from a female point of view, I do feel that it's quite unfair when we get a couple and when the man cheats, then it's like, oh well, he's just a man, and then there's also the excuse being given that, oh, a man is built in such a way that he has to spread his seeds so that to ensure that our humanity out, and then we'll have more babies, so that we can try. So it's like, oh, it's already in his DNA. But when a woman stray, it's like, she's a slut, and then there's a lot of shaming surrounding it, and then she's not like revered among the society, like in the society where the man cheats and, oh yes, go bro, you nailed, you got another woman. But when a woman does this, how could you, like you're not it's like something that is unspoken of. And I like to also bring the attention to the culture as well. We are very patriarchal. Most of the cultures in the world are patriarchal, but in the matriarchal society, it's not uncommon for a woman to have to share brothers as their husband. So example in was it Tibet? Yes, in Tibet and Tibet, yes. So they, especially the nomadic society, the community where they move from place to place in the mountain. So women are hard to come by. So they will marry. There will be a bride, and the bride knows that the moment she marries this man, the brother will also share her as the wife. So how do you determine who is the father of the child then? Then they were just like, okay, both of them or three of them are the father of the child, which is perfectly fine. And it's like we they join in marriage, and they join as like it's like an agreement where we are together, and we is very physical, and we can share. So it's very peaceful indeed. So some cultures, for them, is not a big deal for one woman to have multiple men as long as it's within that boundary. So, and then in our patriarchal society, we have made it in such a way that a woman is not allowed to stray. And the real word stray actually means that you are just extending your affection beyond just one man. So, and then there's this constitution that is called marriage. Adultery only happens when you are married.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if you are not married, and if there's no such constitution, and what is wrong and what is right, by the way, is all judgment by
Right.
men. So yes, of course, there's religion to control women and men, so that you should behave in a certain way. Of course, there's moral values, which is also, when it's moral, there's always right and wrong. But if you are coming from from a space of freedom, where, bearing in mind there are matriarchal societies when, and also women who have multiple husbands at the same time. I mean, so what is the norm actually? And does it mean that the man is capable of loving more than one woman and the woman is not capable of loving more than one man? I'm just throwing it out there because I have seen a lot of cultures and I have experienced a lot of uh, uh, how should I put it? A lot of people who shared with me their stories. So I was like, yeah. So it kind of shook my paradigm. Yes, I'm married. I have a husband, and of course, it's always a choice to remain married. Okay, for whatever reason, whatever personal reason you have, but does that mean that I impose my values on another woman who decides that she doesn't want to be married and she wants to have multiple lovers at the same time? Who are we to judge? We are not God. So coming from this point of view, and I do get a lot of people who say, yo, that's not right, how can you think that way? I said, I'm just thinking that way. I'm not doing anything, but if more people can think from this point of view where what you do with your sex life is your problem and we won't judge you, as long as you don't cause like death in someone's family. So I felt that is a very it's also linked to sexuality as well, because a woman who is fully coming into her own and just enjoying it as it is, like enjoying love making and a connection as it is, and why limit it to only one man? I'm not propagating free sex or unsafe sex or whatever. Be responsible, don't make babies, unwanted babies, and abort them. But I'm just saying that, like, adultery is actually a very patriarchal term that is coined by men, and which reminds me of the movie by Demi Moore, The Scarlet Letter, where she get that branded on her chest, where she goes around with that letter, the Scarlet Letter, adultery, A. So why tell everyone that she's just a woman who followed her passion? And sometimes people change, and you have a change of heart. And so, which brings us to another thing, like if a woman is stuck in a marriage which is soulless,
that's the next topic.
and
No, that's the next topic.
oh yes,
so
so we can talk about that later. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So for
yeah.
me,
so I mean, adultery is only wrong. Adultery is only wrong when you come from a point of view of judging it as right or wrong. When you bring in culture, you bring in religion, you bring in the law, so and then does adultery really exist if we look at it that way? And yes, you enter a marriage, and why do we enter a marriage? Just because everybody's doing it. And if, let's say, it doesn't work out anymore, and for some reason you still want to stay married,
right?
So adultery is only adultery when it's deemed as wrong. But if the conscience is clear as the woman, and I get many liberated women as well who goes around and just very openly, and sometimes it's an open relationship as well. So if it's allowed, why not?
Right. Okay.
So I mean this is a very sensitive and delicate topic, because people hardly talk openly about this, and then people be like, oh, Sue, have you done adultery before? So,
right.
And then there's also different definition of adultery as well. Like they say, okay, the traditional sense is that you take off your pants and there's penetration, there's sexual intercourse, so there's adultery. But now they say there's emotional adultery, there's also the
Wi-Fi adultery. Online adultery.
I mean, like, okay, so if that's the case, then you can't even have friendship with the opposite sex,
right.
Or even same sex. You say lesbian adultery. So I mean, like then you're supposed to lock yourself up in the house and not go out there and make friends, because any form of connection is adultery.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, actually, I get your points, but for me, it's actually very simple. Adultery for me is very simple, because adultery can only happen, as you said, if you are married. Because if you're not married, it's not adultery. Because if you're not married, you can do whatever you want. Okay, but how I see it is, and how it is that adultery, if you are in a marriage which is sanctified by God, which means it's a religious a bonding, then you have to adhere to the rules and regulations of that contract. And normally in a religious contract, it will say, your body is mine and my body is yours exclusively. You cannot be sharing it out. If you do share it out, it's a breach of contract, which then means that is adultery, which is wrong because it's a contract. It's a legal and binding contract. Okay, that is if you are in a religious bonding. Then you also have cultural issues. If you are living in a culture where monogamy is prevalent, then again you can do as you please, but then you must face the consequences of the actions, because in the society you are living in, monogamy is the only form of a bonding that is acceptable. So if people are going to come back at you, it's on you. You want to do it, you have to face the consequences, because again, you are in a bonding with another person. But then the thing is, if you are not in a marriage that is okay, then of course we have the legality of it, because every country you have state law, well, national law, the civil marriage, which we all, in every country, even if you're religious like me, I have to have a court signature, and I have to do it in the church. So it's both. The court one also recognizes adultery as wrong. That is why in a lot of divorce cases, if the one of the partners, the marriage breaks up because of infidelity, it's deemed as wrong. So in most societies, adultery is wrong because it's a breach of contract. But now, when I want to get to, like when you said, of course, there's other relationships. Of course, you have polyandry, which is where a woman can have as many husbands as she wants. But even within that marriage, they also have rules. And then you have polygamy, polygamy, which is when the man can have as many wives as he wants. But even within that, there are rules. They cannot just simply bring in a broom into the relationship and another have a homosexual relationship as well in the relationship. So it depends. But then there are these relationships where people make their own vows. It's a marriage, but they make their own rules. And I mean, in this kind of marriage, if it says it's two of you, you are maybe both male in the situation, but if you want to bring in a female to spice things up, like I said, you bring in a car battery, maybe a dog or a cat, it doesn't matter. That is what they want to do. And like you said, you cannot judge. Each marriage is different. Each marriage law will be different. Okay, right. So yeah, that's an interesting, and like as you said, it's quite taboo. We don't talk about it. And like you said, in a lot of cultures, men can do as they please and women cannot. But again, I can understand that, because men usually, when it comes to sex, men only have opportunities. Women, we have choice, right? So a man will stray because if it's there, he'll just take it. Whereas us women, we'd be like, no, move along. Your friend is better looking, but move. Your other friend looks better. We tend, like example, I always give this example. Like if we go to a bar, let's say you and I go out ladies' night to a bar, and I like a specific man there, and I'll be like, oh, I like him. I want to talk to him. And he is completely not interested in me. I'll be upset, crying. You'll be oh, Celeste, don't worry. And then I'll be drinking and getting drunk, and you'll be like having to hold my hair while I vomit because I'm so upset because he doesn't like me. And then I'll go home and I'll play some Mariah Carey, I Give My All, or whatever song, because, oh, this guy rejected me. That would be the scenario. But if two guys go, the one guy likes one girl, he goes, she says, move along. He just goes to the next woman. And he'll keep going on and on and on until he gets lucky. You see, so that's the difference. And I think that's why society will be a little bit more lenient on men, because we know men shame. They can't help it. They only have opportunity. And why they are harsher on women, because we are the ones that control sexual activity. Because a man can only ask, but we have the power to say yes or no. So I think that's why, you know, we are harsher on the one who has the power, which in our case is the women.
Well, sometimes the men also practice the same as the women, and they say no to the women as well.
Yeah,
So
but that's
I
his
feel that
right.
in, yeah, and the men are getting more and more conscious nowadays, and the women are like the roles are reversed in a
Yes,
way. I do
that's true.
notice.
Yes, it is. Yes,
and
it's
and
reversed.
and that women are speaking out, and they are like more hardened and not as soft as before, and they really go all out and like just like wow, I want it, I grab it. So I feel that in terms of equality, in terms of like judging the adultery, um I feel that the weight should be the same for for all genders.
Yeah, it should, but it's
And yeah,
never going to be. I agree, but
it's never going to
it's not
be. Yeah,
biologically it can't be.
because there's the way the society has been operating.
Yeah,
And
but
but I
even
do see a
so,
shift.
yeah, there's but
Yeah.
even so, based on evolutionary biology, we are just wired in that way. Women are more choosy, and even if we try not to be, like you said, you know, there's more women now that go on and are more aggressive in their approach, more assertive. I shouldn't say aggressive, more assertive. But still, because we are the way we are biologically wired, women attach emotion to sex. Men don't.
Well,
Men,
some do.
yeah,
Some do.
very
And
few.
yeah, and then with the
Generalizing.
like with the lack of agricultural programming nowadays, and the men are more in tune with their heart, and the women are like, okay, I can step into my masculine power. I do
Mm-hmm.
I do see a shift where
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
women is
see it.
like
Yes.
overpowering the men as well. So yeah, so
Yeah, no,
so
I
I
see
mean,
it.
it's very interesting to, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to take note of how sometimes it's the women who strays and not so much the men.
Yes,
So
yes.
and because we are more liberated and more empowered now, kind of, and more financially
And
able, which is
we have
also
more
a very big shift.
choices. We have more,
Yes,
that's why
yes.
women can become prostitutes. Because we can just stand on a corner and 10 cars will come up. Men, they can stand there and he's lucky if somebody approaches him. Yeah, yeah. So there is that shift. Yeah, it's interesting, but who knows, right? Who knows? Okay, then the oh, because the subject is going on for quite a while. Okay, the next part. Do you? This is very important. Do you stay in a lonely marriage or keep a secret lover, or do you just get divorced, lose everything, including your children? That's what you asked. So what do you say?
Well, I deal a lot with single mothers, and the not so single mothers, meaning they're still legally married, but they're still legally bound, but the man is not in the picture for whatsoever reason, whether it be adultery, whether it be the man is in jail, or the man choose to be with another woman, or the man just decided to go missing because he owed a lot of debts to loan sharks and
Right,
so
right, yeah.
so this, these situations, I do see how the women struggle to make ends meet, and sometimes they even sacrifice their children to go with another man. So then we get like this kind of abandoned children and all that, which is of course the worst case scenario. But of course, most of the time, the women will choose to stay on and just persevere and get all the help they can, and they still have the hope that the man will change and come back to them. So I was like, okay. So maybe it's the cultural programming
Mm-hmm.
where the children needs their father no matter how bad the father is. And maybe it's also because of the unknown. If I'm alone, can I do it? Now
Mm-hmm.
I have this so-called elusive safety net that I'm a married woman, so society will treat me kind of as opposed to me be divorced woman, which is also a stigma as well. And of course there's also this aspect where you are economically stable. You're not hardcore poor, you're not like the kind of family, but you are economic, you have your own income, but also the stigma from the society. Do you tolerate the coldness in the marriage, and
Mm,
love is just no longer there,
mm,
and do you
mm,
just stay on? And I do get a lot of women who come to me and share with me their relationship, like sometimes they still have sex, sometimes they
mm,
still have sex out of the primal need, but there's no more love. and just stay on just for the sake of convenience, stay for the sake of the children, stay for the sake of the security, the perceived security, and just to conform to the norm of a happy family, a successful family, you know. So it's just like ticking off the boxes. Okay, I did it, I did it, I did it. And some even go to the extent that they agree not to divorce,
Right.
stay in separate houses, you know, and they have this kind of arrangement, and they're kind of fine with it, but are they really fine? You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just to conform to this kind of perceived cultural acceptance.
Right.
And there's one case when I know of a couple who waited until their only son got married. So the invitation card will look nice, Mr. and Mrs., instead of two different names because of divorce. And then the moment the wedding is over, the next month they're divorced. So it's like it's a personal choice, I know,
Right, right. Yeah,
but
yeah.
each to their own, each to their own. So, and also there's also this very big fear of being judged when it's the woman who wanted to get out of the marriage,
Right, right.
especially when her needs and her heart can no longer take it,
Right,
which I
right.
feel that is the number one fear as a woman. So another reason that I feel is the reason why women still stays on in a loveless marriage is because of the judgment from society. The moment you are known as the divorcee, women will look at them as a husband snatcher. I
Right.
mean, this is a very this is like a very unfair labeling to divorced women. Like, oh, you're divorced, so you're after my man now. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
female community, I'm not saying all females, but some of the females, especially married ones, will kind of like be wary and very suspicious of this
yeah.
group of
Yes.
divorced women. And also there's also the stigma of saying like, oh, you are not tough enough, you didn't make it work, you are not as you're and labeling a lot of things, like judging, like, it's your fault that you're divorced and all that. So it's very unfair actually, and that the burden falls on the woman and not the man. So when a marriage fails, the first thing that people look at is, oh, is it because you don't keep your body, is it because of something, and it's somehow it's the women who bear that burden, or the women care a lot about that judgment, not really the society, but they just perceive it to be like, oh, I have this responsibility to be this good wife, this good
Right,
mom, or
right,
whatever,
right.
this good daughter. And of course, in some cultures, divorce is a taboo, especially in Indian culture or in Arab culture. If the woman wants out, then she's unwanted from her own family, and she's even killed out of honor, so-called to preserve the honor. So divorce
Right,
is like so unheard of. So which is kind of, it is not kind of, it's very sad
right,
that the woman don't even have say to leave a relationship that doesn't serve her anymore.
right. Yeah, yeah.
And we're not even talking about abuse. We're
Right.
not even
Yeah.
talking about
Yes, we're not
abuse,
even. That's a
physical abuse,
different. Yeah,
whatever.
that's extreme case.
This is just feeling cold. There's no more love. There's no more
Yes.
points. And marriage is supposed to be a very sacred union. Is a very sacred union. So if it's no longer honored in that way, what for
Right.
you stay on?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was where I was coming from, and I do see a lot of women being trapped by their own fears, and also
Yeah.
the society expectation of them.
Yeah.
So which I feel is very sad.
Right. Yeah. So for me, it's always coming back to, again, whether you married, the bonding is a religious one or cultural one or just a legal one or your own thing. Yeah, because actually I wrote on Monica, her Facebook page this morning, that I know of people who actually stayed in a loveless marriage for the sake of the children, but the it was not a toxic relationship because they decided their children's happiness at the moment was more important than their own, and then they needed to keep the civil, respectful relationship going.
Mm.
Be kind, be gentle, be friendly. Whatever you do, don't let the children know, because but they allowed each other to have extramarital affairs, but to keep the children safe. And only when the last child turned 18, then they officially got divorced. So I mean, I respect these kind
Yeah.
of people because, again, they put, it's priorities. they prioritize, they put their children first, because, you know, they probably didn't want that for their children, you know, the divorce stigma, because that's again another story that we have to talk about on another day, children from divorced families. But again, like you said, if I think, yeah, in a relationship, in a marriage especially, when there's coldness, I don't see how it can persevere, because marriage is supposed to be this, it's an extraordinary relationship. It's very intimate, it's very, you don't have this kind of relationship with anybody, you know, like that free access, unlimited access to each other's bodies, that is already what sets it apart. And then the deep secrets, because that's why even in the court of, in the court of law, a woman or a man, the spouses, they don't have to testify against each other, because they recognize that intimate bond that only a husband and wife, or husband and husband, or wife and whatever can share. And yeah, so, but I know, and all the stigma you said, that when it comes to women, especially in your culture, because my culture is very different, nobody cares. People can be married for 2 seconds and then they get divorced, and to them marriage means
There is
absolutely
no divorce
nothing.
in my family yet.
Yes,
So that's
yeah, I
my
know. So,
culture.
so I know in the Asian culture, in my culture, oh, nobody cares. People don't. Marriage is not sacred anymore. They get married in church with all the trimmings, but that's just for show. Yeah. Okay. Right. So.
But having said that, my half of my girlfriends are divorced, and it's getting more and more common. And the kids are not screwed up at all; they are fine. And who are we to say that the kid will turn out bad just because somebody is divorced? Maybe that kid will turn out to be more independent than the ones that stay on and
Yeah.
spoil brats, you know.
Or more
So it's
careful.
just a matter of the individual.
Yes, it's in the, yeah, yeah. Like I'm from a divorced family. My mother and father got separated when I was 8, so I don't even really remember them being together. And we are 5 children, and we all took it differently. All of us are different. My thing was just always, I don't want to be known as a child from a divorce, a broken home. I am not a victim. That was always my thing. Whereas my brother,
Yeah.
sister, they victims, like from the minute they wake up till they go to bed. Yeah, but my younger brother, my
And,
well,
and, I- and
we different.
yeah.
We different. We not victims.
Well, it's the individual, is the individual experience, and you
Yeah,
can have perfectly happy parents, but the child turns out to be, you know, ungrateful, or some
yeah.
thing
Something will be
happened to the
broken.
child, or the
Yeah,
child just, yeah, yes, and the child just choose to be a victim and or whatever, and then just blame the parents, no matter how wonderful
yeah.
they are. So it's always individual, and it's
Yes.
also how the child um cope. And because in life you can't get everything you want, and
No.
in this world we know how harsh it is. So I feel that who are we to judge what decision the parents make? I mean, and I was like, it's my personal choice to
Yeah.
stay married,
But
but
I'll
I have
have you
considered
know,
divorce before.
to this day, I judge my parents for their choice.
Okay, it's okay,
But
that's
that's
your
again, that's
personal
another
choice.
story, yeah,
It's
because
your
that's
right.
from a child's
Yeah,
perspective.
that
But
is
now we
your
talk
right.
from a, yeah,
That
yeah,
is your
because
right.
yeah,
and
I
and,
up till today,
and
I
if
often
and
lie awake at night and think. Anyway, yeah, but that's a
but then
other day.
if you are divorced, if somebody is divorced and you choose to marry another person, who are we to deny that person of that happiness? You know,
True.
and then there's also a stigma of marrying a divorcee. Like I
Yes.
get my friend whose father really blocked, like really, he was very against her marrying a divorcee
Oh, okay.
because of the stigma around it. Like,
Right,
oh
right.
no, you're getting a divorcee, you know. So all that
Yes.
thing. So I mean, like, it also works with the. There's also a stigma of a woman who has been married before with kids. You're having baggage, and
Yeah, baggage,
how
yeah.
do you marry another man who can accept, you know, all
Yes.
that thing. So I mean, like, that is another topic altogether.
Yeah,
And now
but
we have a lot of
and
blended
and I
families.
want us to, that will be our next topic, because that is very
Yes,
dear,
yes.
dear to me. That
We
is
got a
very
lot
dear.
of blended families as well, which I feel is
Yes,
very beautiful.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. Very blended. Throw some dogs and cats in as
yeah,
well. I mean, you know, because even
yeah,
if
yeah.
of course your pet has to go into the next home that they also have a
Yes.
pet, and maybe your dogs don't get along. you know, because that's what
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
happened with
true,
our
true.
blended family. The dogs didn't get along.